Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a hot topic that's been annoying young people on social media and news outlets alike. There's been a lot of talk about whether or not millennials or Gen Z are actually less hardworking than previous generations, but is that really the case, or is there something else at play? Let's uncover the real factors behind their financial struggles. All right, we've all heard the criticisms. Younger generations are lazy, they spend too much time on avocado toast, or they don't work as hard as baby boomers did. But today we're going to do a deep dive and try to find out if the stereotypes hold any truth. So let's break it down. So, first off, let's look at the data. Studies show that millennials and Gen Z are actually working longer hours than their predecessors. In fact, according to recent reports, both generations are putting in more work hours compared to baby boomers when they were in the same stage in life. So personally, I've never remembered my parents working that hard. Like my parents had manual labor jobs their entire lives. My mom cleaned houses. My dad worked as a landscaper or this is going to sound very stereotypical, but he picked fruit for a living for many years. He picked oranges. And I saw them struggle, but I didn't see them struggle like we're struggling today. I didn't see them living to pay rent and buy food. Those things weren't hard for them to do. It was the extra things that my parents had to work hard for. And that was month long vacations every year and owning their own home and having multiple cars. That was where I saw them really shine in a decade in which there was no way that those two people, my parents, could have made it raising five children in today's economy with their jobs. First of all, their jobs right now would be minimum wage, which is an unlivable wage. I don't remember my parents ever making minimum wage, even though they were low level people. They always had enough money to do things. We weren't sitting at home bored. We went and we did things. Every weekend we did something. We went somewhere. We were doing something for entertainment. Not like myself. My parents lived a very different lifestyle than what I live. I basically have no money for entertainment. I rarely leave my home for anything that's not an errand that I have to do. And for the most part, my life has been extremely boring. My entire adult life, I've had no friends, no family, nothing to do, and crap jobs. My education hasn't factored in at all. My parents had no education whatsoever, yet they were doing okay. By the standards of the time, we lived in a middle class neighborhood, and my parents always seemed to have money. Like, my mom was a person who, even though we weren't hurting for money, she was always looking to find some other way of getting rich, whether it was her clothing business or jewelry business or whatever she was doing, buying land. They were always thinking about ways in which they could make more money, but my parents weren't educated people. They threw away a lot of money on lottery tickets, sadly. They threw away a lot of money on buying things that they really couldn't afford or shouldn't have been buying. But that was just their lack of education. I have to spend my time, my free time, learning how to make extra money. Like yesterday, I spent all day figuring out how AI generates material that you can use in order to make better content. Right now, you guys are listening to an entire AI generated video. All of this, everything that I've said right now, other than my own notes, has been generated by AI by feeding it data and it just chewing the data and then putting it into a script. So here's another part of the script. So, why the perception that younger generations are less hardworking? It might come down to changing job markets and work environments. Many young adults are juggling multiple part time jobs freelancing, or pursuing gig work, which often isn't visible or recognized as traditional full time employment. And this is why so many people during the pandemic couldn't qualify for unemployment benefits. I believe it was 44% of people could not qualify for unemployment benefits because they supported themselves on jobs that weren't considered full time jobs. If you weren't clocking in to a job that was was 8 to 5. If you were making your money driving for Uber, selling things on eBay, or God only knows what you were doing, but you had to do multiple things because you're not a person that was interested in working in retail, restaurant, or warehouse work because those jobs don't lead anywhere. And on top of that, they are one of the hardest or the hardest environments to work in because they destroy your soul. When you work in retail, it is one of the hardest things that you're ever going to do to yourself. Not just because the work is mindless and repetitive, but just the sheer environment of coming back and seeing the same people. And that's something that I noticed is that because of the high turnover in retail, it seemed like the furniture around you was constantly changing, but you were just stuck there. Like you're just stuck and you can't go anywhere better. So you're stuck and it feels that way. All the years that I worked in retail, I felt as if I was already gone. Like the job was so terrible that I just didn't want to wake up anymore. Very similar to my current job, but 10 times worse. So we spend most of our time looking for a better job. And a better job may not be more pay, it may just be a change of scenery because we're all in that same bracket, the $15 to $20 bracket. And these jobs with low pay isn't worth it. You're not committed to the corporation. I am no way committed to Evil Corp because I know that the loyalty that they expect from me to show up every day and to pay me a living wage isn't there. And I know that the second that the corporation gets a wild hair up their rear end, I'm gone. That goes without saying because they're always looking to axe people at the bottom, not at the top, but at the bottom. They're always looking for that person that seems like they are not working out. That's my favorite expression for when you get fired. Oh, it seems like it's not working out for you here, Millennials team. So here's your white box and clean out whatever few personal things you have at your desk. And then they watch you like you're going to take the stapler or you're going to take a pen or anything off of your desk. And at that point, even before they come over and tell you don't work here anymore, suddenly you can't log into your work computer. And no matter how long you work there, whether it's 1 day or 5 years, the treatment is the same. Suddenly you don't work here, or even worse, you put in your 2 week notice. And that infuriates Evil Corp. And this is why I tell people never put in a 2 week notice because number one, it can be detrimental to you because they could decide that, you know what, we're not going to let you put in your 2 week notice. You're fired. All right. Well, now you don't have any income for the 2 weeks that you were expecting to start a new job. Or they will say something negative to your future employer about you. Bad mouthing you to a future employer is something that's happened to me on many occasions. They're not supposed to, but they can. And if they talk enough crap about you and that other company finds out, they may decide that they're not going to hire you based on the way that you left from your previous employer. In fact, when you go to a job interview and they ask you why you left your last company or why you got fired from your last company, the last thing you ever want to do is answer that question honestly. In fact, every single interview question that you get asked, you should answer it with a positive answer, and that answer doesn't have to be true at all. You can fill that interview with as many lies that you can come up with, because anything that you say that comes off negative in that job interview means you're probably not going to get that job. So if someone asks you how you liked your last boss, you better tell them that you just loved the guy and that everything was great, even though you couldn't stand his guts. You hope that something bad would happen to him every day, but they don't want to hear that, because what that means is that you're going to do the same thing to them. So lie, lie, lie in every single interview that you go to. And this is something I had to learn for myself, because after I got out of college, I would go into job interviews and I'd think, you know what? I need to be 100% with these people. And I didn't get a job for months and months and months. Even after I started working in retail, I didn't understand that I was supposed to go into the job interview and lie my ass off in order to be able to get a job. Because that's what's expected of you, the truth. And then there's the truth, right? And the truth doesn't get you jobs. The truth just gets you more job interviews. So everywhere I go, people are looking for better jobs. That's kind of something that is understood. No matter where I've gone in my life, there's a person around me that has their resume out and is on Indeed or what other job sites you like, Monster, Jobbing, who cares? Glass ceiling or glass doors or whatever that site is. I never got anything from that site. The only site I've ever gotten a crappy job from is Indeed. All the rest of them seem like they're just taking your information and selling it to someone else. The jobs that you find on Indeed, though, I realized very quickly are for chumps. Regular jobs with regular low pay are for people that are either desperate or in between jobs or just don't really need money. Because the average job isn't designed to keep you alive, it's designed to keep you coming back to that job. At this call center, they interview every single day. That's actually something that I got texted today from the call center where she was working at. Every day they're doing job interviews in that call center. Do you know why? Because their turnover is ridiculously high. When you have to interview people in gangs, that's how I got interviewed for my call center job, is that they brought in like 5 to 10 people. They asked the group certain questions, and the people who answered the most positively ended up leaving with the job. And the people who had either bad attitudes or something negative to say, they didn't get hired because they don't want that person poisoning the pot. They want people who are going to come in, treat the job like it's the best thing in the whole world, and leave the job interview thinking the same thing, and they're going to show up hopefully with that same attitude. What happens to people like that is they end up getting burnt out. I've been burnt out of my job for 3 years, but guess what? It's the only job I have. And right now is a very, very tough time to find yourself looking for another job. So, what did I put into toxic positivity today? Gen Z is the last, the responsibility component lacks. That's what I meant to write in here. Gen Z lacks the responsibility component. My current Gen Z worker has been trying to start work now since around the second week of July. First, it was, I don't have time. Second, it was, I need to give my previous employer a 2-week notice. Third, it was, I have other plans. Then he got sick for another week. And today he called out for a mental health. That's Gen Z for you. They're not really interested in commitment. If they were in a relationship with Evil Corp would have broken up with them in the first hour of meeting them. There wouldn't have been a honeymoon phase. Gen Z isn't interested in what's out there. Hard work for no money, for and again, I had this conversation again with the same guy today. that Gen Z isn't exactly built to go into the military, and that's why they're going to have to bring back the draft, because they're just this generation. It's not so much that it's not hardworking, is that it's seen its parents fail. The older millennials, the Gen X, the people who are Gen Z's parents, haven't had the easiest time in the workforce, but they've also been willing to bend over. And I don't think Gen Z wants to bend over. This is the generation of people who call their toes dogs. Gen Z is the first generation that I've heard of that doesn't want to show their feet. It's like your dogs are out if you're wearing sandals. And that's what I've noticed about Gen Z women, is that they're always wearing sneakers. They're always in sneakers, and that's something that I've kind of found odd. And I was reading through an article over the weekend about someone who spent time with Gen Z over the summer and said she didn't understand it either. But I just in the last couple of months, I talked to a mom who has two Gen Zs at home, and she has the same problem. Her kids aren't interested in wearing anything that shows their feet. And I remember I have my own trauma around this. I was in kindergarten, and I still remember this because I wanted tennis shoes, and my parents wouldn't buy me tennis shoes. We were at a small department store, and they forced me to go to my first day of kindergarten wearing sandals. And I remember crying like crazy because I just wanted to have tennis shoes. And I mean, that was 6 years. I was 6 years old, and I still remember the trauma of being there, not wanting to wear sandals. Anyhow, that's going to be today's video. I know this is a different format for me. I'm going to try this format and see if it hits. If I go a month and I can't generate a decent income, I will go back to my standard format. But right now, I'm just trying different things on the internet. So if you don't like this format, eventually I am going to go back to my old format. But for now, I'm just going to be digging around in these artificially created scripts and wondering if I can make it work.